The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on July 12, 2022.
Aloha and welcome to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to talk with Burt Lum. He is the Hawaii Strategy Officer and leader of the Broadband Hui, which is a broad group that we're going to talk about today, and all the amazing work they're doing in digital equity. We're going to discuss a couple of chamber programs that are near and dear to my heart with deadlines coming up quickly. And we're going to hear about different types of insurance from Hannah Harmon and how she can help you plan forward. But let's kick off our morning with a great welcome to Burt. Burt is the State of Hawaii Strategy Officer for the Hawaii Broadband Initiative, dedicated to digital equity and ensuring that Hawaii establishes a robust, resilient, ubiquitous connectivity to the global broadband network. He was previously the executive director of the Hawaii Open Data, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the principles of open data and knowledge in Hawaii, including policy work and community collaborations. And if you know Burt, he is a great community collaborator. He has more than 30 years of experience in Hawaii's technology and communications sector and is a frequent speaker and panelist on the topic of information and communication technology. Aloha, Burt, and welcome back to the show.
Hey, Pam. Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's always a great pleasure. You are such a wealth of information, and there are so many exciting things happening right now. I'm so glad we've got some extra time today. Let's kick it off with what's happening with the federal programs and the funding coming into Hawaii for broadband.
Well, Pam, there's, as people know, the Biden administration, passed something called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and it contains a couple of specific line items for broadband and digital equity. And something that's really timely right now is that typically when the federal government issues or passes these laws, what we look for is something called the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and that's the specific guidelines and rules to engage with the federal government. So the two that were recently announced, one was for the BEAD program, and BEAD stands for Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, and the other one is called the DEA, and that stands for Digital Equity Act. And these two line items are specific for broadband infrastructure as well as digital equity programs. And it's timely, Pam, because today is the due date for the digital equity planning grant. And I thankfully, happily, I got it in on Friday, which was Friday was the 8th, and was happy to get it kind of green lighted, and we submitted it. So I'm not under like a lot of pressure to get the thing in because we did it already. And what the digital equity planning grant allows Hawaii to do is prepare ourselves for something called the digital equity plan. So we have to come up with a plan, and in the bill, the Congress and the president, appropriated X amount of dollars, and based on a formula, Hawaii is going to receive, I think it's like $570,000 to put together this plan, this digital equity plan. So the first step for us was to submit our application, and that was done. And now we wait for the organization that looks at the plan and kind of will go back and forth, and they'll probably go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And that's the National Telecommunications Information Administration. And so the next few weeks will be going through it and maybe refining it, and then hopefully sometime in September we'll get the award, and then once we get the award, we'll be putting together our team and start to work on this digital equity plan.
It's very exciting. And it's, planning is so critical to everything we do, right? It's the way we can be more strategic. It's the way we can leverage our dollars. It's the way we can ensure that we are being very equitable and that we maximize opportunities. So how long, with this funding and this plan, how long do you expect it's going to take to create this plan?
So the rules and the notice of funding opportunity lay out a timeline, and that timeline gives us 1 year to produce this plan. So let's say the start date is October 1st, and we get the notice of award. We have 1 year from that point. So we'll go, to September 30th of 2023, and the plan is basically due. Now, you might think, okay, so what are you going to do after you do the plan? Well, the Digital Equity Act in the IIJA, and that's another acronym. It's for the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, and that's sometimes, like I said, referred to as the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Anyway, the second phase of this digital equity process after the year is to basically prepare for something called the digital equity capacity grants. Mm-hmm. So the federal government, it's not just giving money to do a plan. It's like, okay, so once you do the plan, how do we look at putting some money to various projects that help advance our digital equity goal? So that's kind of the the sort of roadmap, and then once the I guess capacity grants are expended, there's another program that's going to follow shortly thereafter called the competitive grant. But a competitive grant is obviously competitive. So, the monies that I'm referring to in the digital equity plan, as well as the capacity, that's what is appropriated to Hawaii, right? So we will get a certain amount of money. The other one is, you have to compete for it. So again, it's a guarantee. Once we get through the planning process, then the next phase is, okay, so how do we put this money to use? And what I'm kind of reaching out to all of our community members and nonprofits and the people on the front line working in areas like digital literacy and digital navigators and how do you drive adoption in the form of computer literacy, getting computers in people's hands, devices, looking at affordability programs. How do we now take that and go into the local communities to make that happen? And I'm really trying to encourage the local nonprofits as well as local governments like, County of Maui and Big Island and Kauai to figure what is the local kind of digital equity plan, and how do we make sure that that's part of the statewide digital equity plan? So there's a lot of people that need to be involved with this. It's not like I'm trying to figure it out for everybody.
No, exactly. And you've been working on this for a long time, and one of the great assets that you brought together by uniting so many people. What do we have? Over 100 people currently serving on the Broadband Hui?
Well, there's a mailing list that we have, and the mailing list is probably about 450 people.
Wow. And
the typical attendance to the Broadband Hui is, I would say, about anywhere from 50 to 60, and on a popular day it might be in the 70s. So it kind of ranges in that number.
Yeah.
And the participation in the Hui is really across the board, right? We have everyone from from legislators. We have the folks in DOE and higher ed, and we have nonprofits across the spectrum. We also have all the carriers
Yes.
that are involved. So you got Hawaiian Telecom, you got Charter, and then you got the folks like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And so as well as the representation from the telehealth community, we've got the Kupuna Collective, we've got workforce development, we got the libraries. It's a pretty wide assortment, but all of the folks that participate in the Broadband Hui they're very interested in how do we move the agenda for broadband and digital equity across the state. So it's a good forum for getting up to date on what's going on, and from there what I highly encourage is that the folks really start to look at subgroups, and these subgroups are super important because that's really kind of where the work takes place, right? I mean, we can, the Broadband Hui is a weekly forum for people to kind of get the latest on what's going on, but the real work needs to have a lot of, you need a lot of work, right?
Absolutely.
And so that is where people will get together and start to kind of figure out, like, what are some of the tactical details of getting any of this stuff done, and those are the subgroups. And these subgroups tend to be pretty organic. They have there's like a community of interest. Like let's say telehealth. There's a community of interest. There's a leader within that community of interest, and they convene a subgroup. So we have a regular kind of telehealth convening, and then we have another regular convening with the folks to look at something called the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's the $30 off your internet bill, and the $30 off on your internet bill. I mean, that's something to look into, because if you qualify and get verified through the national verifier, $30 is $30. I mean, that could help with gas money. So,
absolutely. Tell people how they can
So that's,
for those
there's a number
who
of subgroups that kind of get together.
Yeah. For those who could take advantage of that $30 off, tell them how they can access that program.
Well, an easy way to access that program is you can go to our website. It's broadband.hawaii.gov/ACP, and ACP stands for Affordable Connectivity Program. And then there's a whole bunch of information there just to, understand the process. But in essence, what it is that if your family household is let's say on SNAP, or receive a Pell Grant, or maybe you're part of the free and reduced lunch from the schools, the DOE. There's a number of qualifiers, and if you're in any one of those qualifiers, you go through the national verifier. You show whatever documentation that verifies your participation in that program, and then you now get sort of verified, right? And once you get verified, you can then go to your carrier, and let's say it's even Verizon. It could be the wireless guys, or it could be the wireline folks like Hawaiian Tel and Charter, and you tell them, hey, I qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program, and what they do is they take your information and they take $30 off your internet bill. Now, here's kind of the cool thing too. Both Charter and Hawaiian Tel have come up with services that if you're in the area where they serve, they have a service that's 100 meg down and 20 meg up. That's the Charter service. And then in Hawaiian Tel's case, they have a service that's 100 meg down and 100 meg up, symmetrical. And it's for $29.99.
Nice.
And you show them your ACP voucher, and boy, now you get it for free.
Now you're getting free connectivity. $30 a month is a big deal these days, a really big deal, and especially for those, who are already on programs where they're needing some assistance and they qualify for this assistance. It's a tremendous program to help. And so,
and the other thing, Pam, I want to mention is that if you're on Hawaiian homelands, you get $75 off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's another great benefit, and this is a program that is being administered through the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, and again, it's been going on for a little while now. I mean,
Yes.
remember back in the heat of the pandemic, there was something called the Emergency Broadband Benefit. That was called the EBB, and that transitioned from the EBB program into the ACP program. So the federal government looks at this affordability offer as a way to help with the cost of internet access, and the amount of money that has been appropriated for the program, I think it's like $14.2 billion. That will run out at some point in time, but we probably got a good 4 to 5 years. What will probably happen by the 4 to 5 year period is that the federal government will try to figure out a way to extend that with either new appropriation or a new definition of how they fund a program called Lifeline. So if you're already on the Lifeline program, that also is an automatic qualifier for the ACP, and the Lifeline program's been going on for a long time. So the FCC is trying to figure out, like, okay, so how do we maybe revamp and come up with new funding mechanisms for the Lifeline program. Like I said, so once you're on Lifeline, you can get the ACP benefit. So anyway, it's a good program. We have probably about 27,000 households that are currently signed up, which is a good number. But we estimate that Hawaii could probably have close to 100,000 households that qualify.
Okay.
So there's a lot more that we could actually get signed up.
Okay, well, this is really important. So we want to keep getting this word out, and appreciate you doing that again this morning, Burt, because to know that that's a pretty big gap. We're not even at a third of our capacity yet. So we want to make folks that if you qualify, we want you to take advantage of it, and so we want you to go to the website and learn more about it. Burt, tell us a little bit also about there were some great bills in support of digital equity this session, and there was a signing ceremony recently. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so, this past session, there were some really, I think, good bills that tries to bring the legislature and the support for broadband and digital equity into the forefront. And, I'll just quickly mention, and we had a signing ceremony, and the signing ceremony involved, these bills. And if you were to take them individually, you might think, what's the significance of that? But if you take them collectively, you start to see a interest and a direction in support for this enabler, this technology that I sometimes refer to as the democratization of technology. So one of the 4 bills I'll go over real quickly. I mean, one is these were all Senate bills, so SB 2076, and that helps to establish the broadband working group, and the working group really is a convening of primarily state government folks that are actually now in there's a good sum of money that's going toward building broadband infrastructure. So as this infrastructure gets built, the question is how do we manage this infrastructure on a going forward basis. So the working group is to kind of convene and determine what's the best mechanism to manage this infrastructure. So that's 2076, and then in SB 2214, the libraries were designated as a hub for digital literacy. So, Stacy Aldrich, the state librarian, I mean, she's a regular participant in the Broadband Hui, and you think about libraries and the function of libraries. They are all they're out there in the community. They're there to give resources to people in the form of books and various forms of media. Yeah. And Stacy's always been a real forward thinker on how does the library become a resource hub, in the 21st century. And so with 2214, it really designates, the library as this location for digital literacy. So there's work going on to develop the program that, people can go and actually attend some of these digital literacy classes. And we've piloted a bunch of those where, folks like Ka'ala Souza are out there actually putting classes together and teaching people about digital literacy. And then tied to the library and doing digital literacy is another project, and this is not a bill, but it was a federally funded project to do telehealth 101 in the library.
Yes.
There's interest on the part of the telehealth community to start to look at using libraries to deliver telehealth services. Another bill, the third one on this list, SB 2184, establishes these digital learning centers in the DOE, and the DOE also calls it virtual learning centers. It's a way for the DOE system to get the resources to get people comfortable with leveraging digital tools that enable distance learning. So these are the digital learning centers. And then the fourth one that I want to bring up, this is SB 2479. And this is a recognition that, when public housing gets built, it has the broadband infrastructure built into that facility so that all participants or all tenants in that public housing have access to internet service. And what sometimes happens, or maybe previously, a building gets built. This happens more frequently than not, but a building gets built, whether it's public housing or even a private, development, and it's like an afterthought, right? They think, after they built the building, they think, we should put some wire in this building, and then it's like, it's almost like too late. It's like you should have designed it in the beginning. So anyway, the bill, 2479 basically says, when you build a public housing, you have to include broadband infrastructure. So you have to, in the design of that building, you have to include the infrastructure that not only has, water and plumbing and electricity, but you have to include the broadband infrastructure so that providers like ISPs, like Charter Hawaiian Tel can then go in and provide, a choice of service. So that's the fourth one. And so these bills all represent, the various forms of support for broadband and digital equity. And I think, we need to continue to have this level of awareness at the state level, because if you think about it, the federal money is a great infusion, but the federal money is a one-time, once-in-a-generation infusion and investment into Hawaii. Right. What we have to figure out is how do we keep this going and it would be awesome if there were more state funds that would help some of these efforts on a going forward basis. So, that's kind of the long view. It's our focus right now is how do we make the best use of the federal investment, and then as we move along this timeline, and this timeline is really only a 5-year timeline. So, whether it's the BEAD program or the DEA program, it's once the clock starts, when you start to get the funding, it's a 5-year window.
Yeah.
So if you're looking from, now till 2026, 27, when the federal programs start to sunset, what we need to do is make sure that what picks it up after that from a sustainability standpoint. So, the work is always going to be how do you keep this going, beyond the obvious federal program.
No, it's going to be that's a very important point. And like you said, this is a one-time infusion. It's a significant infusion, which is why we really need to be involved in the planning and the execution of this, and working with our state lawmakers. So these bills were very important to get us started and to start building the infrastructure and the programs and plans that we need to get us to sustaining it beyond the initial investment. Burt, I know we've got a little bit of extra time. Let's take just a couple quick minutes because there's the site survey for cable landings. Can you talk a little bit about that real quickly and what's happening with the site survey for cable landings?
Sure. So, I spoke about the BEAD program and the DEA program, but even before that, back in September of 2021, the U.S. Treasury announced a program called the Capital Projects Fund, and that one was also a appropriated guaranteed amount, and Hawaii was based on a formula was to receive $115 million. The money, the bulk of that money hasn't come yet because there's another grant application that needs to be put in, and this involves a grant plan. But prior to CPF, Capital Projects Fund, there was some money that we put together a proposal to look at cable landings in Hawaii, and this came out of ARPA money, so American Rescue Plan money. And so there was about $1.5 million to actually do a study. And when I started this job in 2018, I was looking at one cable landing in Kaka'ako, and over the course of time, the interest in these cable landings became very, very evident. And the cable landing is really where do these submarine fiber cables land in order to go from the ocean onto the land. Right. So what the recent award to come up with these site surveys was to look at the locations for 10 cable landings, and this would be 2 on each of the major islands. You got Kauai, Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island, and one on Lanai and one on Molokai. So you got a total of 10. And the vendor that got the award for the site surveys, they're Ocean Networks, and they just completed the physical survey. And the physical survey is just checking out the location, seeing what the physical logistics are of doing the work to bring the cable on and building where let's say the beach manhole would be, and where the cable landing would actually reside, and how do you get from the cable landing to any infrastructure on the island to deliver broadband service. So that site survey work is the physical part is completed. They're working on the actual report now, and we're going to get an update on the next Broadband Hui call, which is tomorrow at 9 a.m. And we'll kind of go through the sites that were selected and let people know that, this is critical strategic infrastructure that connects the state to the global broadband network. And,
Right.
We talk about, the infrastructure on island, but the stuff that really feeds the infrastructure on island is all of these, submarine fiber cables, whether it's inter-island or trans-Pacific. So very important stuff.
Absolutely. And, years ago when we were building, the high-tech park in Kihei, and we had the supercomputer, right? Those cable landings and that initial broadband that came in, was stuff that was setting a course for Hawaii's future. And this is, again, these landings are very important because of the interconnectivity with the world.
I used to work at the Maui supercomputer.
Yeah, I remember years ago.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have resided on Maui had it not been for the internet. And so one of the first things I did when I worked there was to, bring in, at the time it was a big what they call a DS3, which is a 45 meg pipe.
Right.
and when you think about it, 45 meg. Wow, I mean now we're getting minimum 100 meg into homes. But that was what was that? That was back in. Geez, I can't even remember. Late 80s.
In the
90s.
Yeah, we were planning in the late 80s and the early 90s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was quite the time out in Kihei, and thanks to the funding from Senator Daniel Inouye, who brought that in. But I mean, we were always at the time among the top supercomputing centers in the world, within the top 5. For many years.
That's right.
And I remember used to running the video teleconferences, and of course that was new back then. Now we've got Zoom meetings and it's on everybody's desktop, but in the old days you had to go to specific rooms set up with high level connectivity to do these federal government meetings, with leading with the Air Force and different groups. It was really an amazing time. Well, Burt, thank you for sharing this wealth of knowledge with us, for reminding us of all the exciting things that are happening, both in terms of expanded connectivity for Hawaii, for all of our islands, and of course with this great expanded connectivity, the digital equity programs to ensure that we're utilizing this as best we can for as many opportunities as we can. And for taking care of those that maybe aren't able to afford some of the systems that others can, but who can qualify for specific programs geared towards them to ensure that they are a part of this system and program so that they can have the same access as everybody else. You have done a tremendous amount of work throughout your career, and I just really want to applaud you for not only everything you've done in the past, but all of the amazing work you're doing now, and how you've paved the way for us to make this great progress. Thank you so much, and we'd love to have you on the show again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Pam. Always fun to be with you.
Oh, thanks a million, Burt. We'll talk again soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Aloha.
Aloha. All right, well, I wanted to talk about a couple chamber programs today that are so important, and I wanted to just remind everybody that this year on November 4th and 5th, in partnership with the County of Maui and Hawaiian Airlines, we are doing the 9th annual, the 2022 Hawaiian Airlines Made in Maui County Festival at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. Right now, there are no restrictions in terms of attendance. So again, we have to watch and see what happens at that time. But as we move into November, we are currently accepting applications. And this is an exciting time. Not only do we have returning vendors, many of whom have created phenomenal new products that you haven't seen before, but we're also seeing a plethora of new applicants who are coming in this year who have been creating new products that meet the qualification of the 51% valuation for having their product manufactured in Hawaii, as well as these are companies that participate in this festival that are headquartered on Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. So this is a time where everybody can apply. You can go to madeinmauicountyfestival.com. You can go to the Chamber's website, mauichamber.com. But we want to get everybody applying as quickly as they can. The deadline to apply is July 15th, which is a Friday, 2022. It's coming up. So it's this Friday at 4:30 Hawaii Standard Time. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to give you a little inside secret here. The inside secret is that at 4:30 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, which is the end of our day, and when we send out our e-news to our members, we're not going to be checking this until Monday morning at about 8 o'clock. So you can actually get a little extra bump over the weekend, but we do want to get all the applications in. 2/3 of the capacity are, we have applications in, and we have many other people who've been calling us and saying, just want you to know we're working on our applications. So don't miss out. I mean, I know we've had 2 years of virtual events. Last year, due to some tragedies, with weather and a shutdown of an online system on the mainland that was beyond our control, we got to do a mini version last year, thanks to the County of Maui and the Parks Department and Carla Peters. So we were able to do a mini version of the festival, but we're going to be back in full speed with our vendors and our food trucks at the MAC, with our stage presence, and looking to do a hybrid event. So we want to encourage people to apply. The applications are online, and we've got some new and exciting vendors coming in with new companies that have been developed. And again, this is a time where we really get to celebrate our local manufacturers. These are small businesses. And many have said that this one event helps them raise money at a level that when they do other fairs or swap meter things, they can make more money at this annual event than they do with other events throughout the year. And also, it's a great event to connect with wholesale buyers and distributors who are taking your products and getting them into stores. So imagine if you're a startup company, or even if you've been in business for a while, you know how hard it is to get your products in different stores. And of course, first it starts with a quality product, and we're looking at the branding and you know, how's your pricing and what's your wholesale pricing look like. And we have people who are here on island to help you do all that. But when you're building, to have a festival like this where we are taking the time to help leverage and connect you with other people who can put your products in other stores and increase your sales for you. We see so many people get a great jump, and we've had many success stories through the county. And of course, we couldn't do it without the great support from the administration and the county council in funding this. It takes a village to really put on this event because it's a big event. We draw crowds of about 10,000 people each year. And we know that people love shopping prior to the holiday season. So, you know, we just want to remind everybody we're back. It's going to be a glorious weekend on November 4th and 5th, which is Friday and Saturday. We are expecting over 140 booths. There's going to be a diverse amount of products like we've had each and every year. And it's a great way to support your local manufacturers. Find truly made local treasures by local hands and local hearts who take great pride in the quality of their products and creating new things for you. So for you potential shoppers, we hope you're putting this on your calendar for the 4th and 5th. For those who are manufacturers and have phenomenal products to share, just know, while the deadline is Friday, July 15th at 4:30 p.m., we will be checking the applications on the following Monday at 8 a.m. So you have a little bit of an extra bump. We've got some people frantically calling saying we're working on it. But do know we do have a lot of applications in, so we want to encourage everybody to get in. And also, pick the booths you want. Don't worry. Some people called and said, well, I was afraid that if we assign the booths based on when the applications, it's a juried show so first you have to qualify. And then we look at the booths and we look at priority in terms of placement based on when the applications come in. So you do want to get your applications in early. But if you you can still say, hey, I want to do both live and virtual. Just because you select virtual as well doesn't mean that we go, oh, okay, well, if we're running out of space, then this one said virtual. So we'll just know that is something that you can select all that you want. It doesn't mean you're going to be bumped into the category of virtual only. It's going to be get the applications in early, and we'll be looking at the placement. The other thing we just wanted to let everybody know is we're also seeking, and this is, again, one of our treasured events, is the 2022 Mayor's Small Business Awards. And so this is, again, a partnership with the Maui Chamber of Commerce and the Mayor's Office and the County of Maui and the Office of Economic Development. And you might have thought, well, gosh, I thought the Chamber did this in 2022 in March. Well, we did, but that was a holdover of the 2021 awards. Now it would be the Mayor's Small Business Awards for 2022, where we look for outstanding businesses that demonstrate business leadership in a changing economic environment, creating a quality work environment for their employees, exhibiting exemplary customer service and the aloha spirit, developing partnerships with other sectors of the community, utilizing innovative practices and pivoting in a new way during challenges like COVID-19, and demonstrating other exceptional qualities. Now, businesses can't nominate themselves. Okay, the owners can't nominate themselves, but they can be nominated by friends, family, colleagues, vendors, customers, their neighbors. They can be nominated by their staff, but they can't nominate themselves. Everybody knows an exceptional small business. And what we do is we have 3 categories that we have for exceptional small businesses of the year. So one is 10 employees or fewer. The next is 11 to 39 employees. And then the next category is 40 to 100 employees. And 100 employees is sort of our demarcation for small businesses and these awards in Maui County. Then we also look for an outstanding nonprofit business of 100 or fewer employees. We all know amazing nonprofits. We contribute to them. This is a time to recognize them. And we look for a young business person of the year who must be under the age of 40 as of October 6th in 2022. And then a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is that time where we really get to honor those businesses who have been in our community for 20 years or more. And they too can have up to 100 employees. So the nominations are due July 18th, 2022, July 18th, which is a Monday. We want to encourage everybody, go to the www.mauichamber.com. You can just click through and find out how to nominate. The application's online. It's fairly easy, but there's instructions. And the instructions say, contact the person that you want to nominate. Contact the organization. Learn a little bit about them. Because, for example, if they just made a huge donation, but it wasn't on the application, the judges can't look at it. So, or if they just did a great new employee program. So you want to get up to date on these amazing businesses, your friends, your family, your vendors, the places you frequent. Honor them this year, because this is an outstanding award, and we honor every nominee. Every nominee gets a poster showcasing what they do in this community so all the attendees can learn about them. Great press and publicity, and then certificates for all of the nominees because we recognize their outstanding work, and then very specific, beautiful awards for those who win in each category. So take the time to do that. And we're just going to have a brief message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines, and be right back. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back with Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce you to one of our new chamber members who joined us in May. It's Hannah Harmon. She is an insurance agent specializing in Medicare with Premier Benefit Consultants. Aloha and good morning, Hannah.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our great pleasure. We're so excited you could join us today. And I know you offer many different lines of insurance. Can you tell us a little bit about the insurance you offer?
So I contract with Premier Benefit Consultants. It's an independent insurance agency that actually specializes in health insurance for those currently with and those looking to transition into Medicare insurance.
Awesome.
So we do specialize in Medicare, and we're committed to helping Kapuna and our community understand all the Medicare benefit options and, when needed, apply for additional coverage. We try to treat all our customers like family, which means we promise to always take the time to get to know our clients and their needs to ensure that they're on the best plans possible. And we're proud to represent more Medicare Advantage plans than anyone else in Hawaii. We actually contract with all of the carriers.
Wow.
So this allows us to truly provide an unbiased Medicare advice.
I love that. You know, it's a complicated system to kind of navigate through. It's important to have somebody like you help people understand the diversity of these different programs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so all of the Medicare Advantage plans, they're actually yearly contracts. So when you transition into Medicare, it's important to review them to make sure that you're in the best plan for your needs, and also to review them every year because they are yearly contracts and they do change.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. They are all regulated by the Centers of Medicare Services when you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, so each carrier has to submit their proposal once a year and have those plans approved. And sometimes the changes are very minor, but I've had years where they could be quite drastic.
Yeah, so it really is important to have an advisor like you that's working with you year after year and understands your specific needs.
Yeah, Medicare can be quite confusing. And so it is our way to definitely give back to the community, and it's always free of charge. So we don't charge for consultations or services, and we're here as a resource in the community. I've been specializing in Medicare for 9 years in Maui, and been an insurance agent for 16 years.
Wow! And what's the most favorite part of your job?
Really being able to provide peace of mind, and help people navigate the confusion sometimes that Medicare can bring. A lot of times people think that they'll retire when they qualify for Medicare and have 100% coverage for Medicare through the federal program, and it really doesn't cover you at 100%. So it's really important to know what they cover and what the gaps are and what is available to cover those gaps. And it can be quite confusing. So it's my pleasure to help people have a peace of mind and understand what's covered and answer any questions that they have.
And you mentioned that you work with all of the different carriers. Give us an example of approximately how many different carriers there are and options and choices to look at.
Oh, great question. Well, there's two different main plans to look at when you have Medicare. Original Medicare has two parts. Part A is going to cover hospital. Part B would cover physician services and any outpatient coverage. And original Medicare covers you at about 80%. So if you are looking at a Medicare Advantage plan, currently there's 5 options in Maui County. So you have Kaiser, HMSA, Humana, United Healthcare, and Ohana has also come out with a plan. So there's 5 currently this year. That could change next year. And then there's also plans that offer supplement or Medigap policies. And there's probably, there's an endless number of different supplement options to choose from.
Now, explain that for a moment. What do you mean by, so I know you've mentioned Part A and Part B, and it seems to me that when we're talking about the Part B is where we talk about these different options for Kaiser, HMSA, Humana. Is that true? That those are the options when we're looking at Part B for your physician and your outpatient care?
So, really good question. You would actually need both. So, original Medicare comes with two parts. A is going to cover hospital if you were hospitalized. Part B is physician services. So, all of your doctors, your primary care physician, any specialist, but it also would cover outpatient services. So, if you needed to go to, for example, an outpatient facility for anything that can be done within 24 hours is considered outpatient.
Okay.
It also would cover things like if you needed physical or speech therapy. Medicare Advantage plans, they're going to take the place of original Medicare. So original Medicare only covers those parts at approximately 80%.
Okay.
I say approximately because original Medicare also has deductibles you have to hit every year if you're just on original Medicare. But they exclude a few things. Number one, you have that 20% gap of them not covering at 100% for those services. Number two, they don't cover prescription drugs. And believe it or not, they don't cover things like dental services, vision, meaning if you needed prescriptions for glasses or contacts, and hearing, so if you needed hearing aids.
Okay.
Those are not included with original Medicare.
So I'm going to stop you there just because we're running out of time, but I definitely want to make sure that people know how they can reach out to you, Hannah, so that they can learn more and really understand how to get the best coverage to fit their needs.
Absolutely. Well, I can be reached by phone. My phone number is 808-298-4552. My email is Hannah, so it's HANNAH, at P like Papa, B for Bravo, C Charlie, Hawaii.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. We've loved having you here and learning more about what you do and how to best meet our Medicare needs when we need that type of coverage. This is all the time we have today for Business Matters, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm Pamela Tumpop, President of the Chamber, wishing you best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.